Hi, my name is Kevin Thomas, W1DED. I'm back with a contest crew, but we have something different for you tonight. We're going to try a new format where we invite in a newer contester, somebody that has competed in a recent contest, and have them go through their planning, execution, and results from that contest. And at that point, the contest crew will step in and offer their perspective and advice and try to give them some hints on what they might be able to do better to improve scores next time. The operator tonight is AJ Stockton, NK4O, and he's joining us from Florida. AJ, thank you for joining us.
Hey, thank you, and thank you for everything you guys do for the ham community. It's really exhilarating and exciting to see what where the bar is for all of us to reach towards.
So AJ, I know you competed in the CQ Worldwide CW contest, and I think you had a very respectable result. Can you just go through what your plan was in that contest, how you executed it, some of the good things that happened during the weekend and the bad things, and then what the final results were?
Yeah, this one was one where it was a first to go in all 48. I was actually going to run multi-single with N4BP at his location. And about 2 weeks before, he all of a sudden had some issues up on the tower and getting a lot of high SWR. So that got pulled off the plate. So I said, I'm going to operate single op, low power. I'm pretty good at working as a small fry, but I actually, a couple days before I set up for SO2R, so I was going to run unassisted SO2R. Lo and behold, about 24 hours before the event, Bob had texted me and said, hey, station's back up and running, and you can operate it remote if you want, because I'm not operating this weekend. Something had came up. So the morning of, I get that text, and I'm like, wow, not only is this going to be a solo event for 48 hours, I'm going to be a quote a big fish in a big pond. So I was pretty excited, hamming for 46 years and finally, running a really nice station that has a K3. I decided to use the KPA 1500, running full power. He's got an A4 at like 65 feet, and he's got trap diapoles for 40 and 80 and inverted L for 160. And I usually do the 40, 80, and 160 when we do IARU or Work All Europe. So there isn't too much antenna management or beam management. So I had 48 hours where I was like, all right, here we go. So I quickly went online to look and see, hey, who are the big fish, especially in my area, especially for WRTC and Wolf, NN7CW. I saw he had the top, so I quickly looked up and saw he had 4,000 Qs, 159 zones, and 549 countries. So I said, I know Wolf, he runs SO2R. I can't run SO2R remote. We're not set up for that. So I'm going to attack and get the zones and the countries. I'm going to beat those two numbers. That's my goal, and get as many Qs as possible. So I had the contest online scoreboard, and I had some of the other stations to watch, like K4AB and NU4E and a few others, so I could kind of see where they're at and how I was proceeding. So off to the races, and it was exhilarating. I worked until early Saturday morning, and I slept 2.5 hours, but the time I went to sleep was probably the worst time to sleep because it was like 5:20 till like almost 8 o'clock. So I completely missed Gray Line. Being a smaller station, I don't really see the effects of that until later that day. Bob had texted me because he pops in and listens in on the radio and shoots a text here or there, and he said, "Don't miss Gray Line, don't miss Gray Line," and I text back and I'm like, where do I go look? 40, 80? He goes, everywhere. So I'm like, okay, I better not miss Gray Line. So, being a small station and running with wires and then using a big station with a beam, there's some, you've always heard, in my many years about long path, but when you have a dipole, you don't okay, it's long path. You really don't think, hey, it's coming from the wrong way. So there were times there was a VK and I'd move the beam, or I hear the Caribbean and I move the beam and they disappear. And of course, I got a text, hey, long path, you know. So it had not made sense before. Saturday night there was amazing opening to Asia. 10 meters was open. My goal was like, if I'm going to get the most cues I possibly can, get everything I can on 10 and 15 till they're gone. 20 always seems to take care of itself, even though the last half of this year, 20 hasn't been as dependable as it's been in years past. So by Sunday morning, I was really exhausted. So I went to bed like close to 1, and but I was back up before sunrise. So I did work some unique multis on 40 over in deep Asia, which I usually would never hear in my personal station here. But this was all working remote. I had forgotten I had a PC under the desk. I'm on Mac, but if I had pulled the PC out beforehand and hooked up my keyer with the remote Win keyer, that would have been helped. So I was all keyboard point click. So that was my approach. Some other things of note, I got real excited because I had already had 4 bands, 100 countries on 4 bands on Sunday morning. I hit 3 million points by 9:30 on Sunday morning, so I got real excited. So I knew I was going to get close to 4, and sure enough, at 4:30, I think in the afternoon, I passed that 4 million mark. I noticed 40 did open early, but there was a lot of local noise, so I couldn't take advantage of that opening. So I probably could have made some additional cues there. So that's kind of like the outline. The because I was remote and there was some latency issues with the internet, I had to do a lot of hunt and peck, which is very common for small fry 100-watt stations, especially the only time I run is if I'm on Florida QSO Party or if I'm in a CQ World Prefix, because it's a little more important. Only made like 400 of my 2,000 QSOs running. So that's a little bit extra info about how I operated.
And AJ, what was the result? What was your point total?
I did not. I got excited getting past 4 million. I don't think I have the exact score in front of me. I'm kind of waiting on the log checkers to see where I finished.
Well, I'll help you out with that. I'll give you the 3830. You had 2,180 QSOs, 166 zones, 551 countries with a total score of 4.453 million, 4,453,287. Of course, that's before log check. Just filling in the blanks before I turn it over to the contest crew, how many total hours did you end up operating? Do you know that number?
That was 40 hours. So I slept like 2.5 the first 152 minutes the first night and 323 the second. So I ended up working just shy of 40 hours.
I'll turn it over to the crew. They must have questions.
Well, I do. So, AJ, I remember during the contest hearing hearing your call, and you were so loud. It was like, wow, what's going on? Where is this guy?
Yeah, that's Bob's station M4BP as on the CWTs and MSTs. He's a typical beacon for South Florida for the rest of the world.
So I was looking at your log, and it looks like you didn't call CQ really for the first 17 hours of the contest. So very much just chasing spots the whole time.
The latency was causing the audio to drop in and out. So it caused me to ask for repeats. So I had to result in point and click on the bandpass monitor and try to have an extra ear before I moved on to the next. And that kind of went with the whole, I had a multi queue map up. So wherever part of the band was open, I would have that open. So I would make sure to get all the new countries and zones that were lined up wherever the beam was heading, because I had it sorted by beam heading. And I just click, 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 click.
Do you normally go assisted or unassisted?
I usually run unassisted. I prefer to turn the knob on and I like hunting. In this case, running remote, I really didn't want to keep hitting the up and down arrow to go up, point 0.1, point 0.2, etc.
That makes sense. I'm with you on turning the big knob. I think that's more fun. So when you enter a contest, and I read your QRZ, and I've worked you before. What's your motivation? Is it most score? Is it working cool DX, finding cool openings? Like in this contest, obviously running a bigger station you're used to is fun in itself. But what's your motivation? Do you want to get the most of what?
On this go around, my goal was to get as many points as possible. My little background focus is just at least qualify for WRTC to be a teammate. Of course, I'm not going to get that call, but just to say, hey, I made it. There's some other some contests they counted that I didn't really put any effort in that they gave me points for, but those will wash away with a couple more big ones. But I think I'm like 800 points away from getting there. So my goal was really just to do very well so that at least I can say, hey, I qualified to be someone's teammate, and just put that check mark off.
Yeah, that's great. A lot of guys do that, and then they do get the call, and they're like, "Oh crap! Now what do I do? I actually have to operate. What's going on here?"
Whoops.
Oh man, it bit off more than I thought I was. And another question: you got your FCG shirt on, and you talk about the club and stuff. How important is a contest club? I guess locally is big in that state, but how important is that to your motivation level and getting on the air and stuff?
Yeah, it's good. I'm kind of like the Florida contest group cheerleader. I'm like the evangelist, so I really pull them out of the woodwork, especially for like NAQP. I really push to get everyone on, even if it's for an hour or two. It really helps, especially the big stations have a few extra contacts to work, and it's good to see them continually to join the contest online scoreboard, which I think is fantastic. I mean, I started in '79 as a novice, and I I I thought assisted should have been given to those people running with a CK1 or a computer because I was using pencil and paper and a Brown Brothers paddle. So
You said that you slept from 5:20 a.m. to 8 a.m. on Saturday morning. When I looked at the log, I noticed that, and it seemed kind of late to be going to sleep. Did you just run out of gas then, or what happened?
yeah, I just the amount of DX and the ability to just jump into a pileup with that station and usually get them on the first call. I had it set so when I clicked, I was a little higher than everyone else, and I'm not used to that. I'm used to bouncing high and then let me cry low and let me kind who the last one was, and I'm constantly, playing ping pong, and there was no ping pong. It was like bam, bam. It's like a laser, just I was it was so much fun. I really didn't realize what time it was, and then all of a sudden I hit a wall, and ev everything just sounded like, you know, certain letters were mixing with other letters. So I was like, oh no, this is not good. And I'm like, forget it. I have to just walk away for a little bit, or else I'm going to ruin my Saturday.
So how did you decide how long to sleep? Did you? I assume you set an alarm when you.
I don't have alarm. I don't use alarm, and I figured I'm pretty good at telling myself, hey, just sleep 3 hours and wake up. And it went a little longer.
Was that the only break that you took, or what did you take like some smaller ones? Like,
No, I just took one. I took two breaks. The first night and the second night. That was it. So it was a 2.5, and a 5.5, and the rest was straight on.
did you eat anything or drink anything during the contest, or did you sort of have like a meal plan, or like how did you sort of figure out, how to keep yourself?
I do a lot of fasting, like once or twice a week, every week. So that makes it really easy to do. But I did have a couple little snacks. But have a little electrolyte drink that helps overcome. Because if you eat too much, you drink too much, then you have other breaks.
So when you did, it looked to me like it was 17 hours into the contest before you tried running people. It really, what was the? I didn't quite understand there. Obviously, you were having some latency issues, but why did that prevent being able to run people?
When I called CQ, I would work a few stations and a couple dropouts. I missed a did or a da here or there, and then I'd have to ask for a repeat. So it it got a little frustrating, and my initial goal was grab every country, grab every zone. Get those two knocked out, and then try to run at the end to gather the cues, rather than grab the cues and then sneak off, pop off, work the zone or the country, and then come back and try to take your frequency back. I usually did get my frequency back if anyone pondered on, but because I'm usually always small fry, 100 watts, it's hard enough just to hold a frequency at 100 watts, and if you leave it for a second, it's gone. But the fun was running on 10 meters. I was like way up high. I was like 28, 153, and it was like a 108 QSO run, and it was all JAs, and I was just like, wow. I've never heard so many and so many calling at once and only giving their call sign once. It was like wow. It was an incredible group of operators that it made it really easy on that run.
We like working JAs. They're very orderly.
One question I have for you, AJ, is one thing that we talk about a lot on the show is the importance of multi-ops and being able to get to a bigger station than your own. Obviously, you found your way into N4BP. I want to know, how did that happen? Did it come from his side? Did he invite you in? Did you ask him if you can operate there? How did you end up at N4BP?
A few years ago, he was exiting the K4OJ mobile spot for Florida QSO party, and they needed a 15-meter operator. So I kind of took his spot. By taking his spot, I got to know him. I got to meet him, and then he invited myself and Chris over to do North America QSO party, M2. So I got familiar with him in the station, and he's like, "Hey, you want to come back and operate?" And we did like 2 years in a row, maybe three, of IARU, which is a lot of fun. He's incredible operator, and usually I let him do 10, 15, and 20, and I deal with the snap, crackle pop of 40, 80, and 160, and fight my way through there. And so I've operated with him a few times, and this was another one. He's always very gracious about having me either come up or work remote on some of the bigger contests.
So why did you decide to do this one remote instead of going and operating at the station?
The remote thing came like hours before the contest. The station wasn't even supposed to be fixed, but someone went up that tower 4 times and fixed the issues. Because of the situation, I had to work remote. I couldn't go up to the house, so I logged in with the remote software and went to it. Working a big station remote versus SO2R 100 watt, and I was going to do 48 hours. I'm like, I want to play the big fish, and that one I want to play the big fish. And if you get the opportunity to do it, go for it, because it's lots of fun.
One of the things that sets you apart, AJ, from some of the other newer operators might be the fact that you're super active. I know that you're in a lot of the contests. I work you all the time. And I think you being active on, I'm guessing on the FCG reflector, like you mentioned earlier, is a big thing as well. So people kind of just start to, know your call, know your name. And I think for some of the other people that are watching this that are trying to figure out, how do I actually move up to one of these big stations, I think that's something that people really do pay attention to. Just a quick story. Me and Tim, N6WIN, before he had his big station in Arizona, we went to Visalia together, and I'm not super active on my club's reflector, but at the time, Tim was super active on the reflector. He wasn't putting up big scores at the time, but everybody knew who he was. And so we're walking around Visalia, and, I'm relatively well known in the contest community, and as we're walking around Visalia, everyone was like, "Oh, hey, it's Tim. How you doing, Tim? Who's this other guy that you're with?" So I think putting yourself out there really helps, and I just wanted to mention that. So,
Well, Dan, I think that's a good segue into the perspective phase of the show. Looking at the clock here, it's probably time that we moved into that. So why don't you keep taking it from here, Dan, and offer your advice and perspective from the background that AJ has given?
Yeah, I think that you kind of have a good idea of what you can do better next time. I think that you did the smart thing based on the situation where you did focus on multipliers, especially at the beginning. Would I recommend doing that in a normal situation? Probably not. But with the fact that you had trouble running because of the issues that you were incurring with the remote, it does kind of make sense. And I think, the obvious thing, if you were to do this contest again as a single op, first of all, ideally on-site if you can. And I'm sure that if you were to do another remote and you actually had time to set it up properly ahead of time, that you might have been able to work out some of those kinks ahead of time. And I think that obviously the score would have gone much higher if you had the ability to run more. But I think you already know that. I think that what you did with what you had was an absolutely amazing job, and I want to, congratulations on that.
Yeah, just while we're throwing out stories, I operated N4BP. I think in 1976 we did an IRU. I was there, so small world. You never know. I guess it's been good to know the backstory here, because when I looked at your log, I'm like, wow, he just keeps calling people all the time. And normally in the CQ Worldwide, if you do the math, QSOs are how you win the contest. Even if you give up some multipliers, you got to run guys, because it's so much activity in the contest, and especially being in South Florida and from a loud station, you could run European. So it's too bad you didn't get to experience that, because you could have easily, probably even maybe as much as 1,000 more QSOs, and you do the math, that would make that'd make you in the 5.5 to 6 million range, which would be pretty awesome. Sleep strategy would be another thing. I know what probably happened, and I have the same problem myself. It takes a lot of discipline to go, wow, it's 0800, I need to go to sleep now because I need to be awake when the sun comes up. And it sounds like you kind of got trapped, or, you got sucked into working guys, and then just it was too late, and then you had to take a time off at the wrong time. And then kind of the second night, I think you did the right thing. Even though we talk all the time about going 48 hours, it's far more important to be compos mentis, so you can actually do something that is to claim that you were up for more hours than the other guys. It's all about the score. But no, it was, like I said, it was great that to hear you so loud, and you were definitely rocking through pileups. I know I was assisted as well, so we ended up in a bunch of packet pileups together, and you were in and out. So I knew you were not in your normal operating place, put it that way. So kudos to you for finding a station and then taking the advantage of it to put in the hours.
The story of this operation makes me happy for a lot of reasons. First of all, it kind of reminds me of my own story. When I met NW6P and started operating at this station, and I remember the first time sitting down at a radio with an amplifier at all, or with a beam, and just suddenly having this reach that you just don't get, and I live in a townhome in a small house, and with a dipole in the attic at 100 watts, and being amazed that at a weekend where I made 200 contacts, and clearly you did quite a bit better here. And that first time trying to stay up and figuring out what to call and not, I mean, it's thrilling, and it's exhilarating, and it's overwhelming, and no one can fault you for anything that happened. I mean, like you have a reasonable explanation of what, why did you call? Well, the latency in the remote. I'm a little curious about what you use for the remote, and maybe we can get into that a little bit. But I'm just really happy for you, and I hope that you next time can go do this in person, and can maybe play with a second radio, maybe. I'm sure you'll do something different with the sleep schedule, and just like Randy said, it's very easy to get sucked in, especially in your case, it seemed like you didn't have the chance to do a lot of planning of what this operation was going to look like. Or the plan that you did have was for a multi-single, and the station wasn't ready for it, and it just sort of came together, and the universe handed you a sports car to go play in all weekend, and you did a very good job considering all of that, and I think that. Next time we should be a little worried about the big score that you're going to put in when you have the chance to do this. And especially if you're going after some of those WRTC spots. So keep on doing it, please. This is just great.
Yeah, we used AnyDesk as the software, and the whole plan beforehand was SO2R. I was just going to run on one and turn the knob on the other, and just capture all the multis on the opposite band, and just go. So it was a complete last minute shift, but I was excited, like I said, to be a big fish.
All right, I took some notes. So 40 hours is a serious effort, no matter how you look at it. That's some serious stuff. So nice job. I've done very few efforts over 40 hours. And I know that the adrenaline of being able to bust pileups is always great. You mentioned running JAs really high in the band on 10, and I think that's fantastic, especially when you're that far away. Having a clear frequency is often way better than having a good frequency down low, because you can't get heard. We see that all the time from Montana and other places. So that was a great strategy. Obviously, it worked. The Jays were calling you, and you had a great run.
I think I saw MP2X or N8V or one of the other big. No, is MP2X. I saw Fred sitting at just below, I believe. So I said, look, let me sit above him, and maybe they'll come to me after they go to him, and I'll just let them just swim right in.
That's even a double strategy. That's great.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys will slide right in above you, down at 28,001 just to be that. But that's awesome. And you also mentioned that you would get text messages like, "Hey, these guys are long path," or "Hey, don't do this," or "Hey, do this." That's a good example of why I'm a huge proponent of multi-ops, because you can learn all that stuff in a really short amount of time, and especially if you're at a station that can take advantage of that propagation. And then you remember that for next time, like, oh, it's 22 Zulu, maybe 40-meter long path's open, I can actually work it. So that's great. That's a great example of why the community is so much better than going it solo all the time. So yeah, I think it's super cool. And you talk about everyone's kind of hounding you on not getting the QSOs. I'm like, man, you guys are brutal.
Hey, I got 50 an hour. I got 50 an hour hunting and pecking. So
that's great.
That's really good for hunting and pecking.
That's great.
It really is.
It reminds me of a story. I was operating with Dan, and I think we were at WRTC. I can't remember. We've operated so many times. And I'm on one side, and I'm trying to work mults, and he's like, "Dude, what are you doing?" Like, "Man, we got to get the mults, man." And he's like, "No, we got to get the Qs." Like, "No, the mults, dude." He's like, "We got to get the Qs." Well, the answer is you got to get both. But it was just like this. We were fighting each other. We were both right, but the balance is really hard. So you did a great job, especially balancing the fun factor, because working DX is a lot of fun. So anyway, nice job. It's a cool story.
What do you think your when the log checking's all done, what do you think your score reduction will be?
I don't know with the latency, and I don't know on, when you hunt and peck and you hope that the call signs were right on the bandpass filter, even though I've got, I think AC6ZM1, he talks about call sign vocabulary. So any oddities that I saw on there, I would definitely pause and make sure the call sign was correct. So I would hope it's 6% maybe. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be, but I would hope it to be down around 4, but we'll see.
Yeah,
I bet Randy knows the guy.
I haven't looked, so I actually don't know what it is. But no, that's probably that's a good target. If you can stay with that, you've done fine. AJ, you gonna, now that you've done one, you gonna do it again?
Oh, that That's for sure. We lucked out this year because it was the weekend before Thanksgiving. So I'm going to have to figure out how to do the weekend after Thanksgiving and work that out. So that was a bonus this year. It was easy to say, hey, I'm off the grid this weekend. I'm only playing radio. So it's just everything worked out perfect timing with the ability to work the big station remote, have the flexibility of working the full weekend, and yeah, next time, button up the latency and the and getting the key to having the key is so nice to have, even remote. I'm very fast typist on the keyboard, and I can go Control K and type, but it's just a huge difference just to reach over and hit what you need to hit.
AJ, thank you for joining us for this experiment tonight.
Thank you.
If you're watching this and you're interested in the concept, let's say you're planning to be in a contest in the coming months and you'd like to be on the contest crew, or maybe you've finished a contest and you'd like to have some post-contest advice, send me an email. Maybe we can work it out. This has been the Contest Crew with Dan, N6MJ, Randy, K5ZD, Chris, KL9A, and Bill, W9KKN. Thank you for joining us.